I'm a capitalist true and true, all the way through. I think it's very difficult to get people to do something that is against their personal financial interests. So if we espouse this belief that there's a better way to build and generate the revenues that the project will generate, because it goes back into the foundation to advance the mission. So as Mason said, the real estate here is a platform for the greater mission of this foundation. So we are out to make money in this process. If we can't prove as an institution that has this belief that you can do this and make money while you do it, then we can't replicate it.
Hello, my name is Soyini Coke, and I want us to take a journey together. There's a movement in business. Some call it stakeholder capitalism. Others call it purpose-led business. Some people call it profits through purpose or going beyond profits. Or we like to call it conscious capitalism. Regardless of what you like to call it, there are business leaders all around the world committing to and doing their very best to use their powers for good and not for evil. So I want you to join me in learning how to do this conscious capitalism thing better and better, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Capitalism Done Right, brought to you by CEO Exclusive and Conscious Capitalism Atlanta. In the episode you're about to hear in a moment, I talk with two founding members of a massive multi-billion-dollar project, backed by the state of Georgia, multiple universities, Gwinnett County. And what excites me about this project is that it's being founded on conscious business principles. And take a moment. Can you imagine what the world could be if the largest companies truly followed the tenets of conscious capitalism? The idea just fills me with so much hope. Maybe, just maybe, we here down on planet Earth, we in the human race, maybe we're gonna make it. So enjoy the show.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Capitalism Done Right. We love to bring you new and exciting things, and I am very delighted this morning to have Rowen. If you haven't heard of it, you soon will. It's a massive, massive project in Metro Atlanta. When it's fully built out, it's expected to create over 100,000 jobs and between $8 to $10 billion of economic impact. And it's really, really going to be truly revolutionary. And so I'm really delighted to have with me today the CEO and president of the Rowen Foundation, Mason Ailstock, and Bob Hughes, who is the founding principal and partner of HGOR, a landscape architect company that has to its credit a few tiny little projects like the Braves Stadium, the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Hospital, and the Georgia State Library. And so, gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's a delight to have you.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
So, Mason, I would love for you to tell us briefly a little bit about Rowen, and in particular, how you see it manifesting conscious capitalism in real life.
Sure. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. Rowen is a project really like no other, certainly in the state of Georgia, and our vision for it is it's bold, it's multi-generational, and we're excited to be bringing it to life. The project itself, as you mentioned, there's 2,000 acres that the Rowen Foundation has acquired over the past couple of years, and really have a mission for the real estate to create a knowledge community. And what does that mean? What is a knowledge community? It's really a place where diverse industries, communities, leaders come together to take on the global challenges that we face. We're focused on the sectors of medical, agriculture, the environment as our primary programmatic drivers, as well as all of the enabling technologies that connect those worlds together. And through the foundation, through the real estate really as a platform, we're going to take those things on together. And it's a place that's going to be sustained over time. Again, there's decades of great work ahead. We're just starting this year and breaking ground, and to bring not only those jobs that you mentioned and the economic impact, but also that culture and awareness of the work that we are doing and the impacts that it has locally, that it has within the state of Georgia, and the implications nationally and globally when we're able to pull those resources together in partnerships.
So, Bob, I know that you have an interesting take on the, being a stakeholder of Rowen. How do you see Rowen touching different stakeholder communities beyond the environment, certainly, but the community, et cetera?
Sure, Rowen is and will have stakeholders that you mentioned the environment, with environment being one of our programmatic drivers. How we build, how we approach the land at Rowen is very important. In fact, in our mission statement of Rowen, we talk about being a global destination, a place of innovation and transformation, but also a place where stewardship of the land is a cornerstone of an inspired community. So we have to begin with the land itself as a stakeholder. We have the surrounding community as stakeholders. We have all the citizens of Georgia as stakeholders. This will create, as Mason mentioned, multi-generational opportunities for kids that aren't born yet. So we're really talking about future stakeholders that we have to ask today's people to speak for as we think about this. And then the type of research and the thinking that comes out of Rowen itself is to the world. So we have a duty to a largest stakeholder. We have duty to people all around the globe as we look at this. So we have to listen to a lot of people, and we have to step back, and we have to really think, are we doing the right thing? We've taken, you think of a place like this as having laboratories. We have said we want Rowen to be a laboratory itself. We're going to test the water today before we start building anything in the streams. And we're going to have it tested every year for the next 20, 25 years. We're going to see, are we doing it right? If we can invent new ways, our streets going in will be complete streets. We're eliminating gutter in our streets because we're eliminating concrete, the thing that produces the most greenhouse gases in construction. Little things like that, if we can prove them to work in Rowen, then they'll work outside of Rowen. And so that becomes part of our pledge to our stakeholders, is that we're going to push the limits.
And Mason, it seems to me from our conversations that there is this huge matrix of relationships that is coming to, kind of intersecting in order to be able to accomplish what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Share with some of our listeners about how you're building that matrix of relationships and how that is both feeding you and how you're giving back to it, which is one of the key tenets of conscious capitalism.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with great projects like Rowen, they can be fairly complex, and not just in their real estate and how you think about the economics of a project like this. But to your point, thinking about the relationships that need to be brought together and sustained over time take intentionality as well. And as we've created Rowen, as we've established the foundation, as we continue to move forward, that intentionality around outreach, around building trusted relationships, that they're not transactional relationships, they're relationships with elected officials, with the local community, with the state, with business leaders, and expanding that network. There needs to be a level of conviction for those that believe in the mission at the foundation. That's certainly a core value that we champion. There needs to be an understanding of ownership as you build those relationships, that it's not the intention of the foundation to overly control things, but to really come with Rowen as a project with an open hand and invite those other stakeholders to contribute, to shape what Rowen ultimately becomes, and giving ourselves that freedom and confidence in the work ahead to allow that to happen. And I don't think that's always human nature for everyone, to allow for that freedom when you're handling something that has quite a scale and has an impact like Rowen is having and will continue to have. That trusted relationship piece is key to me, because ultimately we cannot be successful without building a common narrative and a common interest across multiple groups. And that's something I think about every day as we have many, many conversations with folks around the project.
Yeah. And so just to kind of go a little bit deeper, it sounds really great, right? Like you're taking on stewardship of this beautiful, massive forest, basically, just outside of Atlanta. And one of the things that I think we're materially interested in at Capitalism Done Right is, well, then what's the economics behind that? And Bob, I would love for you to put on your owner-operator hat. Our CEOs, who are typically our listeners, are very interested in beyond the environmental stewardship and the, for lack of a better word, do-gooderism. Yes, you're going to be great people and take care of the environment and leave something behind for your children and great-grandchildren and great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. That's great. But then show me the money, right? So help our listeners kind of understand, well, then how does this make money? Where's the profit motive behind all of this for our red-blooded, non-do-gooder CEOs? And we love them all.
Yes. Well, and you're talking to I tell people I'm a capitalist true and true, all the way through. I think it's very difficult to get people to do something that is against their personal financial interest. It just is. So if we espouse this belief that there's a better way to build and generate the revenues that the project will generate, because it goes back into the foundation to advance the mission. So as Mason said, the real estate here is a platform for the greater mission of this foundation. So we are out to make money in this process, no doubt about it. When we think about, well, let's use the median of our road to be infiltration for stormwater back into the ground. Okay, well, that's interesting. Why would you do that? Well, environmentally, it's better to do that, but we just eliminated miles of piping when we do that. We eliminated cost when we did that. We just looked at the problem differently and backed away and said, well, we can do this and it's better for the environment and it saves us money. Why would we not do that? So it's an approach and it's a way of thinking that I think, as Mason mentioned a minute ago, we have a group of people that are passionate about this. We have a group of people that believe in this mission, and will spend that little bit of extra time that it takes to ask the questions to get it right.
Yeah, you're picking up on something that I have seen in this discourse. With a lot of the way that people harvest economic benefits from conscious capitalism is around innovation. And going, like you said, Bob, taking that extra step to say, how can we solve this problem in a creative way that ends up being net benefit for all of the stakeholders? And yeah, I would love for you to weigh in on that.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the simplicity of, you drive down any street and you see what's called curb and gutter. There's the curb and then there's a concrete gutter. We asked the question when we began the project, why do we do gutter on so many roads? Because you see it where it isn't too. In Atlanta, you see a lot of granite curb with no gutter to it. It took us a week to find somebody that had the answer. Everybody was like, well, because it's required. Well, we always do that. Why do we do that? And somebody finally said, well, it means you can go farther with the stormwater before you have to put an inlet in. Well, we're going to use the median for our stormwater. And we eliminated that. But it was asking that question, why? Just get up every day and say, why do I do it this way? And those simple questions, one upon the next, in a group of people, the answer may come from the least expert in the room, because they're the freest to give you the answer to it. And that just becomes an ethos of how you approach something, how you do your work.
And Mason, it feels to me like a part of the thesis of Rowen is that as an innovation district, you expect that you will generate these kinds of innovations around environmental stewardship, conscious business that will then be able to fuel other projects elsewhere in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Bob used the term living lab earlier, and the curb and gutter example is a great early one that we can point to in the work that we're doing. But even as we attract businesses, as we work with our higher education partners and researchers that they have at the table, and students and everyone over time, I mean, ultimately, the value that Rowen produces has to go beyond the boundaries of Rowen, right? It has to be transferable. There needs to be the ability to share that with others, to use Rowen as that lab, but then transfer that value. And some of that value may be community impacts. It may be monetary value. It may be decreased impacts on the environment, new solutions in the field of medicine or agriculture, or many others. I think that transferability in the work that we're doing and the types of partners that come in for us is a bit of a litmus test, right? Like, do these words, does this mission and vision for Rowen align with you, company X, in what you are hoping to achieve as a CEO, right? Because these are the core values that we espouse in all of our conversations, and that attracts other believers. That in itself builds an ecosystem, an economy that creates a new type of value and brings others in. And you all become ambassadors in different ways to attract and identify others to bring into the table, into the conversation.
And certainly we wholeheartedly agree with you. Both CEO Exclusive and the Contest Capitalism chapter of Atlanta, who are bringing to this program, wholeheartedly support that thesis. I guess one question I have is, how do you know that the values are being genuinely imprinted and that it's genuine, for lack of a better word? And what is your plan for making sure that as you have this multi-generational impact, the organization stays true to those values over time?
Two parts to that. I think first, I moved to Georgia from Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, and we had a similar foundation at the RTP Foundation that has led the Research Triangle for over 60 years. And in that position and the relationships and talking to companies taught me a lot about how you share this vision, you build this belief, these core values, and then you look for the actions from the partners that are coming forward. I think to your question, when do you know to call BS if it's not a true value for how that company operates? And
yes, we're very interested in that.
Right. So I think it's sitting down and it's looking at those actions. It's meeting face to face with the CEO, with their team, looking at their track record, looking at their research enterprise, looking at their existing relationships that they have with higher education, looking at their talent pipeline history, right? Are they focused on equity issues? Are they focused on transferring knowledge? Are they focused on the environment and the other developments that they've executed around the world? And it's a process, right? To get into a place like Rowen, again, not transactional. We want to dig in, we want to understand what is the relationship, what's the commitment, what's the interest. And through that process, you understand and get daylight into the data, into the actions, into the history. So I think that's core on the front end with any partner that we engage with as we move forward. And ultimately, if it's a good partner, those things just cinch us even closer together and create even a stronger bond and a commitment for what we want to achieve. And I think we need that when we're trying to change the world, right? When we're trying to have an impact, we need others along with us that aren't just passive or even agreeable, but are committed to what that can be. So I think that's one. To your other question, from a governance perspective and with the land, we have integrated design guidelines, covenants, use restrictions, bylaws that the foundation has, where we are always the steward of the land, even after we have sold it to companies coming in. We are always responsible for the architecture and any improvements from signage to buildings to trails that happen on the Rowen land forever. So there's a level of oversight, governance, and input that's not just from Mason. It's not even just from the foundation. There's several supporting committees and entities that will hold me accountable, hold the foundation accountable over time, that we are meeting those targets, that we are vetting partners properly, that we are keeping up with the most current standards of environmental sustainability and following through on the actions and commitments that we make year to year.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to Mason's comment there just a little bit. We mentioned the design guidelines that we've created. When you have a project, design guidelines are quite often what we call dictatorial. There'll be two of this and one of that, right? It's real easy to check box. We want innovation. So we wrote goals in design guidelines, energy performance goals, sustainability goals, and goals that say all buildings shall be human in scale. If somebody brings a designer in who doesn't understand that phrase, then they're not appropriate to design inside of Rowen. Right? A good designer will understand that phrase and be excited that they're given the freedom to produce that in an expressive sort of way. So when you do that, and then when you take this long-term view, I quite often say this even about our own company, we're really the old Radio Free Europe. We're broadcasting over a curtain into a dark area, and we believe somebody's listening and wants to hear our message. We really don't know. Right? But we believe that. And if we're consistent in delivering that message, when somebody hears it, they say, oh my gosh, you're building a place like this. Let me come be part of that. I want to build in that place. And those are the partners that Mason mentioned that come and make you even stronger in what you do.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, you know what? I would love to talk with you both for the rest of the life cycle of Rowen and hear about the multi-generational impact that you're having. But unfortunately, we have to draw our show to a close. And so I thank you both very much for your time and for the work that you're doing. I actually worry about the trees a lot in Atlanta. Yeah, I worry about them a lot. And so it's nice to know that I don't know what the tree census is on Rowen. You probably know how many trees you have, but at least those trees are going to be in good hands.
Well,
so
we'd love to have you out to the site and give you a tour.
Oh, yes, I'll take you up on that offer. Great, Jeff. We can do a field trip. Jeff is, for those who don't know, Jeff is our wonderful executive producer at Chat with Leaders. So thank you very much, Mason and Bob. It's been an awesome show, and I wish you all the success in the world with Rowen.
Thank you again, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and thank you for doing this, and we look forward to the tour.
Hey, thanks for listening. I know you're really busy, so let's talk about what we can learn that makes this conversation with Rowen worthwhile. When I asked a question about where the payoff for implementing conscious capitalism shows up, I was actually expecting one of the usual suspects. People talk about lower employee turnover, happier employees, or getting a marketing boost. Something like that. But that's not what I heard. Bob actually surprised me here. What did he say? What did he say is the reason, that they're getting benefit or they expect to get benefit out of conscious capitalism? He said innovation. It is absolutely true that conscious businesses are more innovative. And innovation leads to more productivity, lower costs, which is what Bob mentioned directly in the interview. It leads to new services, and of course, it leads to better financial outcomes. Did you know that labor productivity has increased by 299% in the United States since 1950? That means that the average person can do 3 times as much with the same day that they used to be able to do. And that is because of innovation. So, if you want more innovation in your business, take a moment to give some thought to what actions you can take to use conscious capitalism to create a culture of innovation. Oh, and by the way, if you want some help, there are a whole bunch of other business leaders trying to do the same thing too. So take a look at the Conscious Capitalism website, subscribe to our newsletter, and come join us at an event. I want every CEO, business owner, and business leader in the world running their business this way. So please rate and review the episode on iTunes or wherever you're listening. Send it to a friend or a colleague. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just put my name in the search bar. I'll come right up. And I'm always interested in feedback. And that wraps up our time together today on Conscious Capitalism Done Right, brought to you by CEO Exclusive and Conscious Capitalism Atlanta. Until next time, go out and do something amazing in the world with your business.